Hey everybody, this is Silverin, and today we're going to walk through a plus 19 Necrotic Wake that me and my friends timed. The affixes are Tyrannical, Bursting, Volcanic, and Tormented, and you'll see the effect that Bursting has on a couple of the pulls. I'll be healing a lot. So, before we get into the dungeon, I want to go through the basic route that we're going to take. So if you can see here, the first pull, I pull everything on the upper tier. The green pull is second pull. Then we go around to the left. We do that pull in the red, the 3-pack, get the Tormentor. Back around to the right, you got to make sure you get all the weapons in the dungeon. We do the boss with the first Carrion Golem. And then we, luckily we have, I believe, 2 Carrion in this. So we can do multiple golems. So you'll see we do I believe we do all 3 golems throughout. And then you just work your way through, and the big thing is you skip Narzuda with an Invis Pot. Or if you have a rogue, go through there. In the upper level, obviously, you do everything and you'll see the pulls. The talents I ran for this one, Blessed Hammer. I didn't think things were going to hit too hard and you'll get more holy power. So we're running that. I also am running Bulwark of the Righteous, which is a little different. Normally I run the Carrion Legendary, but I just switched over from Venthyr. I've been running a lot of Venthyr lately on Tyrannical. I'll have a video about that coming out soon. And then the other thing is Final Stand. I actually probably would have spec'd into Righteous Protector. I just kind of forgot. But Final Stand probably saves my butt a couple times, and we'll go through it again coming up. So, basic party composition for this. Like I said, anything below like a 25, most people will tell you you can do it with anything. We have Protection Paladin, Resto Druid, Havoc Demon Hunter, and then we have a Beastmaster Hunter, and then a Survival. So we have Lust, which is very important for Tyrannical weeks, and we have 3 melee. It's a Volcanic week, so that's fine. And then Bursting, again, you kind of want to take the mobs down one at a time. Let your Bursting stacks be removed. The way Bursting works is it can stack up. So if there's only 1 second left on it and another mob dies, it'll add another stack and refresh the timer. So if you can take them down one at a time, it's good, but it's not needed. So like I said, first pull here, I tell the hunter to misdirect the corpse harvester, I believe on the right to me. We use Avenger's Shield to pull the blight bags on the left. Now the blight bags do not apply bursting, so that's just something to remember. You can pull as many of them in and kill them whenever. And so this is a standard pull. This allows you to pick up the hammer, which is immediately to the right. And you want to pick, there's 3 hammers in the dungeon. You want to try to pick them all up and use them on the last boss. And we'll go through that when we get there. But you can see the Patchwork Soldiers, they put poison on the party. If you look at the party frames on the right, you'll see them turn red. We can cleanse that. It's an 8-second cooldown. We can only cleanse 1 at a time, but I highly recommend healer first or yourself, depending on the situation, or if there's a DPS that's really low. And you can see the bursting stacks. We did that really well, taking them down 1 at a time. You can see here I'm helping the healer heal. That's something that's really important as Paladin. Part of your mitigation, a lot of your mitigation is healing. So if you don't need to use your Word of Glory on yourself, use it on your party. Help your healer out. They can do DPS. It's free heals. Might as well use it. So going into pull 2, you can see the Corpse Harvester. The big interrupt for them is Drain Fluids. So what they're going to do there is they silence a party member, and that party member can basically do nothing. So you want to get that interrupted as soon as possible. The Stitched Vanguard has a meat shield. You want to interrupt that as soon as possible, what I just did. That's going to let him not get more health. It's going to, in turn, turn into a faster pull. And then you can see the Patchwork Soldiers. They're just applying that poison, and I'm trying to cleanse as we can go. So yes, 2 standard pulls. This is Tyrannical week. If it wasn't for bursting, I would probably pull all of that together. I definitely think my party could do it. You get a kind of feel if you're pugging and you got a new party. First couple pulls of the dungeon, you can kind of feel what your team can handle, and so it's okay to pull a little smaller, I would say, in the beginning of a dungeon, unless it's like the other side where you're stuck in, it's automatically a big pull. But just to get a feel for the DPS that you have, how your healer's doing. In this case, I play with a lot of these people a lot, so I know I could have pulled bigger, but I also know that Necrotic Wake has a very lenient timer, so we'd be fine. So I like to come get, especially on Tyrannical weeks. On Fortified weeks, I won't come over here and get the Tormentor, but on Tyrannical weeks, I highly recommend getting the Tormentor. This is the Tormentor that will provide a DPS anima power for everyone, and that's just going to help you take down the bosses a lot faster. So very important. Gore Chop. The bosses in this dungeon are, in my opinion, very well done. You'll see Gore Chop. He's not too hard, and I think it's very important to use your weapons properly, and you'll see that coming up. But so Execution of Ruth. One thing you'll see me do is my Blessing of Protection's on cooldown right now. It's a 5-minute cooldown, but when he charges to someone like he just did, Carnage, he will do physical damage to them and apply a bleed. You can Blessing of Protection that person, they will take no physical damage, and they won't apply the bleed. A bleed is considered physical damage, so you want to use your utility as a Paladin. You want to get that that bop. I know it's on a 5-minute cooldown, but every little bit that you can prevent, that's your job as a tank. As a Paladin, you know, in addition to tanking, you know, number 1 priority is making sure you have threat on everyone. Number 2 priority is making sure you stay alive. But you can see my health. Like I'm doing fine. Like I have an empowered Word of Glory I'm just holding on to because I'm not taking any damage, right? So number 3 priority is help your teammates out. You have Blessing of Freedom, you have Blessing of Sacrifice, you have Blessing of Protection, you have Cleanse, and you have heals. You have a free instant heal through Word of Glory. You can cast Flash Heal if you need to. Right there I just Word of Glory, you know, the Hunter that was getting a little bit low. So really try to utilize everything you have as a Paladin to make just the dungeon easier. I mean that's your goal as a Protection Paladin tank. So that pull right there, you saw the Corpse Harvesters. They throw cleavers. If your DPS can position those cleavers properly, they'll hit their own mobs and do damage for you. If you can't, you want to soak them because they will do a significant amount of damage to your DPS, especially if they soak like 2 cleavers on a fortified week. That definitely would be enough to kill them. So I'm Carrion. I activate my Owl friend. We get these orbs. Now these orbs, you can see we have some ranged. They should actually be in melee because these orbs do an AoE heal, which will work for the ranged characters, but they also do an AoE damage. So if they were in melee, so if everyone's in melee, we're doing extra damage to them. You can see the Carrion. If you look on the left, bottom left of my Carrion, you can see that gray bar. That's the Carrion damage done by those orbs, and I threw a spear on this one. A lot of people don't use spears on Gore Chop. I've just found that with some of the group I've run with, Gore Chop's one of the harder bosses for us in this dungeon. Mainly managing these mobs, and because we run with a lot of melee, so these Carrion Worms are right in our faces right away. So as a tank, avoid the green stuff he puts on the ground. He has one hard hit that you're going to want to have a defensive up for. Ardent Defender, Guardian of Ancient Kings. I have the ability to Divine Shield. And then he's going to focus the DPS with that Slime Breath and spew out 3 ads. You want to kill the ads immediately. They can only melee. You cannot taunt them. They go after a random party member, and they do a ton of damage. Their melee stack essentially. So if it hits right there, boom, 2 hits on the Hunter, he's dead. But we recovered. We had him really low. One big thing there is you want your DPS to focus that belch away from everyone else, because it can hit everyone and apply poison. You should be cleansing the poison on the person it hits. If it hits your healer, cleanse them first, then cleanse DPS, and I think then cleanse yourself as long as you're in a decent position. So, but that's Gore Chop. So like I said, we did use a spear there, and I think that's very dependent on the group comp you have. If you think you have enough damage, we used Spear and Lust. A lot of people will save spear bosses 2, 3, and 4, and then you save all 3 hammers for the last boss, and then you lust bosses 1, 2, and 4. We are in the position. I just know how we do on bosses. I do not think we spear Stitch Flesh this time, or maybe it's the last. No, we don't spear the last boss, I believe. But we'll get through there. So this is just getting percent. Like I said earlier, you really want to avoid that mob right there on the left. He doesn't even give that much percent, and he keeps summoning skeletons that don't give percent. So avoid him like the plague. Definitely don't go. So it looks like here I'm the only Carrion in the party. My owl is on 2-minute cooldown, so we're not going to use the orbs here. We're going to use the orbs on after our Narzuda skip for a big pull. All right, so here, normally if you can get someone to CC one of those Riddleborn mages, because you don't have to kill them. As soon as the Necromancer dies, you'll see all the ads despawn, except for the 2 ads I pulled on the left. This is a fine pull. I actually should have pulled the Blightborns into this also. You can see them at the top of the screen on the left. But there the Necromancer dies. It's all interrupt based, and we're running Divine Toll, and we have Avenger's Shield, and we have our Hand of Justice, and we have Rebuke. So we have 4 interrupts, including an AoE interrupt and Avenger's Shield interrupt that can, be reset by our blessed hammers. So interrupt everything. There's a lot of random damage there. You want to use stun on the crossbowmen because they target random party members. So interrupt as much stuff as you can here. So with this pack right here, this Marauder, you need to be really careful with a lot of melee. He has a cleave, and I need to position that cleave and make sure. Ooh, you can see right there, boom. He just hit not only me but both of the melee. So what I should have done is I should have positioned him like towards the wall. I should have told my party, hey, we are going to position towards the wall. We missed a fear there, and you know what happened? We missed that fear because of the initial cleave. We lost massive amounts of health. The healer went into overdrive. The DPS are having to hit defensives. You get a little confused. You miss important interrupts, which that fear was a very important interrupt, especially because we're skipping Narzuda. You saw the one party member is walking over that way. And then in that pack also there's a Bone Mender. You need to interrupt their Bone Mend, which is a massive heal, and they'll apply it to the big guy that does the cleave. So all the DPS work you do on him, it just goes out the window there. So you can see I picked up the Anima Orb. That was after the previous pack, not the skeleton cleave guy, but the previous pack. That does AoE damage and silence, which you'll see we use on the second boss. I told my DPS there to pick up the spear. So now we got this. Now you can see I don't hit Divine Toll right away. Normally you want to use Divine Toll on cooldown because with the Soulbind we're using, Mykonos, if you hit 5 it'll be a 40-second cooldown. But right there I Divine Toll. I know they're both gonna cast the Fear, Rasping Scream at the same time. And because I know that, I'm gonna hold on Divine Toll so I can get all the interrupts. My party doesn't have to worry about it. I can make their lives easier. So here, again, it's just a single Necromancer pack. You only need a DPS to Necromancer. He should be your focus. Interrupt everyone else. So you see I stunned a mage there. And I'm holding on to an Empowered Word of Glory. If one of the packs like this, you really want to hold on to your heals for your party members to help, because they're going to target either your healer or your DPS. There's a lot of random targets. And as a tank, you can't control that, right? We can't get threat on those spellcasts or on those crossbolts. So the best way we can help out our party is to heal them after they take the hit. And it's very important because sometimes, unfortunately, especially like a fortified week, the same DPS will get targeted by both crossbolts and probably get one shot. But if it's different timings, you can help your healer heal them up, which is very important. So because it's Tyrannical week, we are going to do all of the Tormentors. Now normally, I think on a fortified week, you can definitely skip Saganon. The last boss, the only physical damage he does is the hits on you, which on a fortified week is completely manageable, especially at this key level. Anything I think from up to 20s, but on Tyrannical week they hit harder. You don't want that last boss to have that extra 50% physical damage. Just going to make it harder for you. So I recommend going ahead and do the Tormentors, especially at our key level. It really doesn't take too much time. So, alright, so you can see my Owl is on a 5-minute cooldown. He's back up. We activate this Golem. Now we have an AoE heal and damage for 1 minute, so we can do a nice big pull here. Now, there is bursting, but the nice thing about this pull is only these 5 mobs right here will apply bursting, and you'll see they're going to misdirect the skeletons into me. Those skeletons to the right that are coming in right now, they do not apply bursting. So very important, there's a lot going on here. Your job is to focus on the Marauder, the Skeleton Marauder. You want to hit the Fear Interrupt, and you want to place him. I placed him much better, so the cleave does not hit your melee people. And because you have those orbs, probably your ranged and your healer should be in melee too. So it's very important you position him well, so they don't get hurt. So I should have pulled these two into the last pack. You can see it's Tyrannical week. The mobs are easier. This is one of the best affixes for Tyrannical week. There's no extra damage here. So I could have pulled these in. We probably would have saved 30 seconds, really. I mean, look how long it takes to do this. Just a 2-pack. It's always a waste if you're just doing 1-pack, 2-pack, unless they're really, really big. So one of my DPS grabs the spear there, and then I'm the tank, so I'm gonna tell everyone when to use the spear, when to not use it. Go through all of that. So what we have here is it's another Necromancer pack. Things are going fine. Just focus him, throw heals out, try to interrupt as you can. Like I said, if I was smart, I would ask one of my party to CC one of the mages on the outside. So it's just less damage. The higher key, it's more important to do that. So we're gonna do Arcoleth here. You're a Paladin. Call it out if you have the interrupts. I have the first one. I have Rebuke up right now. I'll probably have Avenger Shield for the next one, so my party doesn't have to worry about it. You can see right there, very important. So there's a lot of dungeons where, like, you get to a point where you can't really, it's very hard to go back and get percentage if you don't have enough mob percentage to complete the dungeon. Remember, on Mythics, you need 2 things. You need to kill all the bosses. So in Necrotic Wake, that's 4 bosses. And you need to get 100% of mobs. So you can see that on the right-handed side, that yellow bar tracks my percent. So I know 68.55% is what I need before we can go up top to the platform. So we get the power here, and we so I think we have Lust is up, so we're gonna Lust, we're gonna Spear. You can see here the Spear is gonna take a big chunk of damage out any minute. Okay, so we didn't Spear this one because we're saving it for the last 2 bosses, and the main reason for that is it's we have Lust, and I have great AoE abilities to deal with all these adds. It's very important to get these adds down. So the boss has 1 interruptible ability. You want to interrupt as best you can. You need to get these adds down before he casts Final Harvest, because if any of them are alive, your party will instantly wipe. It will do an AoE explosion, practically killing everybody. Now, one cool thing is you can actually, if the adds are CC'd, so you don't kill them, here's Final Harvest. You need to make sure you dodge. But if you can hard CC an ad, like if you get your mage to polymorph him outside, or you get the monk to paralyze him, you don't actually need to kill that ad. It takes some coordination, and you really need to make sure that ad doesn't get hit by any AoE abilities, which all my abilities, all Paladin abilities are AoE abilities, so I don't take the chance. So we have that going. So you'll see right here, I'm probably going to activate my my orb. This is going to interrupt everybody. It's going to do AoE damage. It's going to let us take down these ads super fast, and which is much needed. You can see things got a little dicey there. Interrupt the Necrotic Bolt when it's up. Amarth also does channel, and he spins around, very similar to Mordretha in Theater of Pain. And then yeah, it's just a DPS from here. You know, Lust is worn off, so the last bit takes a while. When they're this low, you don't need to worry about the ads anymore. You're gonna be able to kill them before the end. So, all right. So here we've killed the boss, 2 bosses down, 3 tormentors down. We double check percent. Do we have enough percent? The rule of thumb for Necrotic Wake is you need 69% before going to the top. So you can see I'm double checking there. That's my planned pulls for the top. We go grab that other anima orb. You can see I just grabbed that blue orb past the golem. That's going to let us do a double pull up top, which is going to be really nice, save some time. And then we take the angel up. So like I said, you can't get back down once you take the angel up. So we got this first pull here, and then you'll see I'll pull in this second pack and probably activate the orb. You need to be really cognizant of those spare parts. They're hard to get aggro on. They'll jump on your people. I do activate the orb here. So we have a lot of mobs dying. There's like 6 mobs there, so bursting is going to be an issue. So right now as a paladin, you're thinking, I need to help my healer out when all these mobs hit. So fortunately, it was like 3 at a time, which for us is really good. We only had to deal with 3 bursting stacks, and then we have to deal with essentially, well, at this rate, it's just 1 and 1, right? So we clear those. These 2, on Tyrannical weeks, I should be pulling these with Cold Heart. Getting them down a little lower, we probably need to work on that as a team. Again, so the Flesh Crafter has Throat Cleaver. If you can position the mobs correctly, and the DPS can place themselves in between the Flesh Crafter and that Loyal Creation, the Flesh Crafter will throw his cleaver into the Loyal Creation, doing damage to them. So he can do damage to his own friends essentially, which is what a lot of groups utilize that to do damage to tormentors. So right now, if we brought that tormentor in, and this Flesh Crafter's throwing cleavers, and we can put it on the tormentor, it does really good damage there, and utilize it on bosses. You definitely don't have to at this level. I think on higher keys like 25 plus, it's very important to do that. And there's some great streamers and YouTube videos that at higher key levels that'll show you how to do that. It's very useful. They always use it in the MDI tournaments and everything. So, all right, Aura's Cold Heart's next. Might as well get as many Aaron powers as we can before doing the rest of the mobs. He has a frontal ability. Ice swirlies on the ground. Avoid them as much as you can. Because I am using Final Stand, which is that AoE taunt, you can kind of see, I don't even think I've used it like at all this dungeon. So that was a huge problem. I could have essentially like probably an extra like 20% DPS, because instead of my Avenging Wrath wings essentially being on a 2-minute cooldown, taking Righteous Protector basically puts it on a 1-minute cooldown. So I would have it up for every pack. Big oversight on my part. So it's just something you learn, right? You can utilize, like, so now if we were doing this in a 20, or the same dungeon, I would know exactly how I can feel with it. It's always good like early in the week to do a couple warm-up keys, get a feel for the dungeon, and if you do that dungeon again, you're on target. You know exactly what you need to do. So the pack there hits pretty hard. Just kite is needed, and this pack is more important. So the big one is the Corpse Collector. They have Gore Splatter right there. Boom! I just interrupted it. That applies a massive poison to your entire party. You can cleanse it, but you can only cleanse 1. That is a high priority interrupt. And he does drain fluids, which will silence one of your party members, but Gore Splatter is the high priority interrupt. You need to CC that. One that can really put your party in a very bad position, and then any hard hit on Fortified, if one of those goes through, it could lead to a wipe, unfortunately, or at least a couple of deaths. So it's something that very high priority interrupt, need to focus that. And then throw cleavers when there are no other mobs for him to throw a cleaver at. as the tank, you need to soak it. You can soak it. It's super easy for you. So now you go into this role-playing phase. You're gonna have three mobs essentially. You need your DPS to focus these cleavers in the right place. They hit each other. Awesome. Right here, the one assistant is going to do morbid fixation. You can help your team out by bopping them. So I just bopped the demon hunter who's getting chased. He's completely safe now. He can't take that physical damage from the assistant. Especially look out for your melee in that case. Now you only have one bop, like I said. So if you bop here during the boss fight, Surgeon Stitchflesh also does morbid fixation. So you can save it for that, help a teammate out. You can see there, he morbid fixated. I did not have bop up. The melee didn't get out of the way soon enough, essentially, and we had a death. But with our time, the way the dungeon's going, it shouldn't be an issue. So this pack right here, Gorgrind hits hard. He does an AoE cleave, as you'll see. He's gonna target melee. They need to get out of the way. You can't really do anything about it. Mutilate right there. Excuse me. And then that slice right there is his cleave. So hard CC, the bits, if you have it, you might as well throw some hard CC on it, keep it from jumping around. Pretty basic pack. On 4 to 5 weeks, I'll run Consecrated Ground, which gives you that your consecration of 50% slow, and I'm kiting. He stacks up like he reduces your armor, I believe, over and over and over, so his hits start hurting. You can just tell right there. Boom, big hit, right? Bigger hit. So yeah, I'm just getting hit. I should be kiting. I'm keeping it. I know we only have one left. My healer can do it, and I have healer, so I'm not kiting. But on 4 to 5 weeks, I would be dropping consecration, backing away nice and easy, making sure we can still do damage on him, but making sure I'm not getting hit as much. So, Rot Spew covers. He's gonna shoot at one of your a random person, cover the ground where they're at, pull them out of it. Other than that, hard CC the leftovers if you can. It just every little bit of hard CC just prevents damage, and it's a 6-second stun, so it's going to prevent 6 seconds of damage from one of those leftovers, which is awesome because they jump on your DPS and healers. So it's just going to make your healer's life easier. It's going to help you time the key. A lot of people think that you need to use your defensives. Ardent Defender properly. Guardian Ancient Kings for the big hits. That's your 50% defense. But it's very important to every CC you hit is also essentially a defensive. Every interrupt you hit is a defensive. You're saving health. Every hard CC you hit is a defensive. You're saving health. So you really, as a paladin, it's very important to use your entire kit. Interrupts are part of our kit, and it's why we're a little squishier than other tanks, because we can interrupt spells. So whereas other tanks, you might only have one interrupt, right? And if your party's not interrupting, well, you're in trouble. We have interrupts. We can prevent 100% of that damage. So it's something to keep in mind. So, all right. So Stitchflesh creation hits us. He's going to throw a hook up. The DPS needs to position it. The Surgeon Stitchflesh comes down. We spear him. So right here, he casts Morbid Fixation. You want your DPS to interrupt that, essentially, if they get the hook right. And then the second hook that comes out of creation should go right back up to the platform, because Stitchflesh is getting ready to jump back up to the platform. We'll see if we get it here. Looks like we do. When he goes back up to the platform, he will summon a second creation. So you want to taunt that right away. It's very important. Also, very important, when your DPS party member spears Surgeon Stitchflesh, you need to make sure you hard taunt. So Hand of Reckoning immediately when that happens, or else you're going to lose aggro, because that spear does a ton of damage. So hard taunt then, make sure you save it for that. Hard taunt the creations when they come down. It is good on Tyrannical weeks to try and get one of the creations down. If you have Stitchflesh hitting you and 2 creations, it can really add up and hurt. So I make sure I get that creation. Don't want him hitting any of my other members. You can see I actually did use my bubble taunt, my final stand here in this fight, because I was getting hit pretty hard. But overall, it's pretty easy fight. Just need a DPS, and if you miss the hook on Morbid Fixation for Stitch Flesh, you just need to help try to bop the person that he's fixated on. That'll just help your team prevent damage and prevent a death, which is no DPS, right? There's a death. So, all right. So what we're doing here, we can take it slow. I see 8-minute timer left. We could actually like wipe on this boss. It's still time, you know. So right there, okay, good example. I taunted too early, and one of my DPS used a spear. Now, so my hard taunt is a 3 seconds, Hand of Reckoning, which 3 seconds at 100% taunt. And he hit the spear after that went over, so he got full aggro, got a full melee hit from the boss. If we didn't do Sagadon, that would have instantly killed him. So you really want to time it with your DPS. If you say spear on pull, maybe do a little countdown for him, 3, 2, 1. We also lust on pull here, so that's very important. But so basically melee hits, he's going to send DPS down to run the gauntlet. They're going to come up with a debuff to drop some ice somewhere. Comet Storm right there. We have a lot of melee, and we run with a lot of melee DPS, so it's very helpful to try and coordinate where you're going to run. The basic idea is you kind of do a circle right behind you. Make sure you pull the boss out of frozen binds right there. And then any hammers, you should have 3 hammers at this point. Use the hammers to take down that shield. It won't actually damage him because the hammers don't damage bosses. They will damage mobs, but it will stun him to take off the shield. So it works on the shield. So you want to coordinate. Normally, you want your DPS to hammer on the first shield because that DPS might get sent down to the bottom, and then anyone who's up after that, just to hit the hammers on the other shields. So, and then let's see. After this, you know, this fight's long, especially on Tyrannical. This was the first 30 dungeon that was timed. Andy Brew, Thanner TV. Andy Brew's a Protection Paladin. If you go over to his channel, you can see it. Thanner TV is a Resto Shaman. You can see his point of view, and the boss takes a long time, like even for them. And after Lust is down, it's just a slog essentially. You just have to hang in there, do your best, and make sure you position him properly. And the thing on this fight, you know, when you have a lot of time, and we had 8 minutes left when we started this boss, you just need to not get hit. Like your DPS and your healer and yourself, you can't help it, right, with melee hits. But if you all can just avoid damage, like that's the fight, essentially. That's the most important thing. Avoiding, you know, sometimes the timer's really tight and you gotta push it, right? Because you wouldn't time otherwise. But this is, you know, as long as everyone's avoiding the Comet Storm, you're pretty much guaranteed to kill him. It's just gonna take a long time because it's Tyrannical. He has a lot of health. But we get him down. You can see we're almost there, and great feeling, you know, timing a Necrotic Wake with some friends. And thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it.